Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life to make us all a little more awake, alive, and ascending. So, I want to talk about a friend of mine who was going through a breakup. And this one question that I asked her that I think changed almost everything for her. So, I have a friend, and she just went through a breakup. And obviously, I'm not telling this whole story because it's not really mine to tell. But I think the part that might help us all is what happened when she called me for some advice. And this was the kind of thing, like, she had a little bit of a runway, a little bit of a storm brewing. Like, she had an idea that this breakup was happening. And so when my friend got clear that there was like a high probability that the relationship was ending, she went into a bit of a storm. And listen, not it was it wasn't the kind of storm that you might expect. Like, she wasn't angry or throwing things. She actually was fawning. She was fawning. And I want to explain, if you don't know, for those of you who aren't on my particular Instagram algorithm of fawning dogs and amazing recipes, I want to explain what fawning is because I think it's one of the most under discussed trauma responses out there. And I think it's really one that gets us into a lot of trouble inadvertently, because, most of us know fight, flight, freeze, but fawning or appeasement, as they call it over in like the real trauma therapy world, is when you respond to a threatening or painful situation by people pleasing your way through it, by making yourself small, by abandoning your own needs in order to manage the other person's emotions. You make sure that the other person is okay to ensure your own safety. So you become so focused on keeping them comfortable that you basically disappear. And that was really what my friend was doing. Every single sentence that she was telling me was kind of about him, I wonder how he's feeling. I wonder what he needs. Do you think he's okay? I don't know if I should reach out or not. I don't know if he needs space or not. And I listened. That's what good friends do. Listening is helping. Doing nothing is doing something. And I let her get it all out on the floor. And then I asked her what I think is a really simple question. I said, "What do you want? What do you want?" Right? And she was quiet. And I said, like, what do you want the outcome to be? How do you want to feel when this conversation is over? What do you need? And she kind of stopped. Like, she hadn't even considered that. She had been so consumed by his experience that she really lost track of her own. And she forgot, as I think, I don't know, I've done millions of times in a fawning response. She forgot that she was a full and equal participant in this relationship, not just someone whose job it was to manage his emotions through the potential ending of this relationship. And so, I related so deeply. I have been there so many times. I have been the person on the phone spiraling about what the other person needs while completely ignoring what I need. I mean, I've lost money over fawning. I've lost relationships over fawning. I've lost myself over fawning. And it's always so astounding to me, even though I've done this work professionally, personally for years, how easily we give our power away in conflict. Like, we completely forget how powerful we are. We forget that in any interaction, we get to want something too. Like we forget that we can hold our ground and still be kind, that we can leave it all on the field, that we don't have to play small just because a situation is scary or painful or you fill in the blank. But Ascenders, there is a gorgeous ending to this story. The relationship didn't work out, but my friend, she's like a new woman. She feels amazing about how she showed up. She held boundaries, she took care of herself, she said what she needed to say. And now, even in the grief of it, because, like, of course, there's grief, she doesn't have regret on top of her grief. She's not lying awake at night thinking, why didn't I say what I really felt? Like, she said it. She said the whole thing. She honored herself. And if a relationship's not going to make it, don't you want to feel that way at the end? So that brings me to our pocket sage today. We've not had her yet, but she's well known. And if you don't know her, you might want to get introduced to her. Good old Glennon Doyle from her second book, maybe her third book, Untamed. She's just, a very well-known writer and blogger, and she talks a lot about how we abandon ourselves in order to keep people around us comfortable and what becomes possible when we stop. So here's the quote from Untamed. We want to be liked. We want to be trusted. So we downplay our strengths to avoid threatening anyone and invoking disdain. We do not mention our accomplishments. We do not accept compliments. We temper, qualify, and discount our opinions. We walk without swagger and we yield incessantly. We step out of the way. Let me read that one again to those of you in the back. We want to be liked. We want to be trusted. So we downplay our strengths to avoid threatening anyone and invoking disdain. We do not mention our accomplishments. We do not accept compliments. We temper, qualify, and discount our opinions. We walk without swagger and we yield incessantly. We step out of the way. And that yield incessantly, I mean, that's really fawning. And that's my friend on the phone. And that's so many of us. That's all of us who have ever swallowed our truth to keep the peace. I think there's many of us that yield so automatically that we don't even notice that we've left ourselves behind. And so our word of the day today is quite simple. It's want. I know, simple, and maybe even a little uncomfortable, right? Because so many of us were taught that wanting things is selfish and that the good version of us, I put that in quotes, the good version of us is the one who doesn't need anything, right? The one who takes care of everyone else first. The one who says, "No, I'm fine. I'm good. What do you need? How can I help?" Right? But want is actually one of the most important spiritual words that I know. Because think about it, you can't participate fully in your own life if you don't know what you want. You can't set a boundary if you don't know what you want. You can't make a decision or leave a relationship or start a business or take up space in the world if you don't know what you want. Want isn't greedy. It's not selfish. It's the voice of your aliveness telling you what direction to walk. And when you silence it, when you fawn your way through a breakup or a hard conversation or a marriage or work or a business deal, as I have so many times, you're not being generous. You're going missing. So listen, fawning is a trauma response. I want to be really clear about that. It's not a personality flaw. It's not a weakness. It's something that our nervous systems learned to do a long time ago because at some point, making yourself small and making sure other people were safe kept you safe. So perhaps when you were a kid, maybe managing other people's emotions was the only strategy you had. Like maybe the adults in your life were unpredictable. And so the safest thing that you could do was make sure that they were okay, because if they were okay, then you were okay, or at least you weren't in danger. But you're not a kid anymore. I don't think you are. And so this strategy that protected us is now robbing us, right? It's robbing our voices, it's robbing us of our power, it's robbing us of the experience of being fully present in our own relationships, even ones that are ending, right? And so my friend's instinct, and that's what a trauma response is, it's an instinct, was to focus entirely on the other person's experience, right? His feelings, his needs. And I get that. But I want to tell you that instinct didn't come from nowhere, right? But interestingly, the way we heal trauma is through the body, right? It's actually not through thinking, it's through connection or movement, it's through changing your state. And so my friend's other instinct was to call me and co regulate with me. So we actually, while we were talking, kind of moved her out of that fawn response. And she trusts me. So when I asked her, what do you want? And she was in a safe enough position to let herself answer that question, so much shifted because she remembered that she was in this too, that she had a seat at the table and her feelings were not secondary to his. And people have been so deeply conditioned to yield that we've forgotten that we have directions of our own, right? And let me tell you something, the antidote to this isn't aggression. It's not about going to war, promise you that. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about returning home to ourselves. It's about getting to know ourselves. And it's about asking ourselves in the middle of conflict and fear, in the middle of pain, what do I want? What do I need? How do I want to feel when this is over? And like, here's what my friend proved, right? You can hold your power and still be compassionate. You can say hard, challenging things with love. You can end relationships without losing yourself in the process, because she didn't have to choose between being kind and loving and being honest. She was both. And the result wasn't just a really clean ending, it was actually an elevation of herself. Like she stepped into a new version of herself that she's kind of obsessed with, rightfully so. So, listen, if you're in the middle of something hard right now, a hard conversation that you're dreading, a relationship that's shifting, a moment where this instinct is to fawn, I want you to pause. I want you to do something for your body, because that's how you get out of a nervous, out of a fawning nervous system. So I want you to shake your body or go put ice on your neck or call someone that you know comforts you. And then I want you to ask yourself the question that I asked my friend. What do you want? Not what do they need? Not what's the safest thing to say that's not going to upset someone. What do you want? Because I want to remind you, you're allowed to answer that question. You're allowed to let that answer matter and be the priority. So, our reflective question of the day, it's a tricky one. What are you making yourself small in right now? And what would it look like to take up your full space? And listen, here's something I know for sure. When we are constantly fawning and we're not aware of it, so often it impacts our relationship with food. I can link emotional eating and fawning like it's going out of style, right? Saying yes to everyone, saying no to yourself, right? Following every rule and then breaking every rule with food. And so in my Stop Starting Over system, we do so much work with the nervous system, which is really the thing that needs to get healed when you've been in these chaotic relationships for so long. And we help you reconnect with what you want. not what the latest diet is saying, right? So if you're ready to stop abandoning yourself in this particular relationship, you know I'd love to talk. And so you can learn more at mollycarmel.com, or you can just sign up for a call in the show notes. And I am right here with you, Ascenders, practicing this radical act of wanting something and saying it out loud. And so if this episode spoke to you, send it to a friend who also might need permission to stop fawning and start claiming what they want. I'm obsessed with growing our Ascender crew. We rise together. Until next time.